Hello, friends, and welcome to Coached by Tara, a podcast where Tara...
Hi, that's me.
...coaches me, hi, that's me, Mike, on various pop culture stories and things, and I never know how to say this right, but she just coaches me on things that I don't know about, because I'm a dumb man, big dumb caveman boy. My forehead is way farther out than my eye sockets, so I look like a caveman.
Anyways, right now we're doing the Twilight series. That's what we've started to do
the first book in the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer.
Yes.
Who's the author.
And
shout outs to her.
We're about almost halfway through.
Yes, we just finished chapter 10
on chapter 11 this week.
And chapter 11 is called...
well, do you want to recap
I don't
first?
know. No, but first we're going to read an email, actually.
Oh, yes.
We have an email. Tara's going to read it.
I'm going to read it.
From our friend Karis.
Karis. Okay. It says, there's no subject. I don't know if that's important, but I'm saying that.
Okay.
Hey, Tara and Mike. Waving emojis.
Hi, Karis.
Hi. Anyways, kind of a long one. Sorry. Just wanted to say I'm really enjoying the show so far. Twilight is something I used to love as a kid, and even though I grew out of it, I still have fond memories of bonding over it with my friends from high school. I really appreciate Mike's fresh insight as he experiences everything for the first time, and I'm so glad you guys aren't just ripping into this series. I'm so tired of people straight up hating these books when they provided such a fun escape for me at one time in my life. It's cool that you guys are giving it a fair shake. No one thinks Twilight is the pinnacle of literature, but it's also not the absolute worst thing to ever be written, as some people think. I agree, like obviously it's super cheesy and stuff, but like those were like a big thing for me back in the day. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this podcast. But
my only complaint about it is that it's been a little slow, but that's because we're doing one chapter at a time.
Exactly.
Like
whereas
once a week.
I literally read this book in a day.
Right. And if I was reading it myself, I would blow through it because that's the kind of reader I am.
Exactly.
I'd read the whole book and then, but yeah, it's a little cheesy. But it's fun.
And obviously, like, it's become a meme. Like, as things have gone on, and it was a big thing back then, like Twilight or Harry Potter. Like, and obviously, like Harry Potter was my first love, so I was always like, that's my
HP for life.
That's my thing, you know.
She has a tattoo.
No, I don't.
It says HP for life.
I really don't. I wish I did. No, I don't. No, I don't wish I did. But
it's on her butt cheek.
Like, no, it's not.
Oh.
There's nothing there.
You'll never know.
I guess people will never know.
I know.
But like, it was still not. I mean, yeah, back then, still even somewhat, it was like, oh, you like Twilight? Like, that's weird. That's dumb. But like, I still liked it.
Right.
And I went to I went to the premieres and.
You know what it's like?
What?
It's like liking Fall Out Boy.
No.
Yes. Because, well, not now. Because now Fall Out Boy, people like them a lot more overall. But it's like liking Fall Out Boy in like early on Fall Out Boy. Because as a guy, I guess.
Oh.
Because there was that stigma of, oh, if you like Fall Out Boy, you're a sissy or you know what I mean?
It was never like that for me.
For you didn't have that because you're a gal. It was, you had to be kind of a closet Fall Out Boy fan early on because they'd be like, oh, this is like emo, like girl stuff.
Oh.
I got a lot of that for liking Fall Out Boy.
That's weird.
Because I was like, whatever. I like
I guess
this.
it was like
care.
emo phase was big when I was in high school or like in middle school. So it was like, I don't know. It was just a regular thing.
I think even in like the emo phase, they were kind of like people made fun of them.
I think people like, because like I was in the emo phase in middle school, but people were like, oh, they're not like hard enough.
Right.
You know? So there was that a lot where they're like, oh, you don't listen to like Fall of Troy. And I'm like, I listen to it, but like I really love.
Fall of Troy's dope.
I know, but you know what I mean though? Like they were like, oh, you can't get any harder than Fall Out Boy. I'm like, yeah, I can like things that are harder than Fall Out Boy. I just like, I was obsessed with Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and like that genre.
I got made fun of quite a bit.
Yeah.
For being a Fall Out Boy.
Anyways, I'll get back to this email. I'm not done with that. I didn't mean to go on such a tangent. Back to the email. But I agree. I definitely agree with a lot of that middle part of this email. But it says, anyways, you guys are so funny and Tara's coaching is really good too. She has such an in-depth knowledge. Oh, thank you.
You do.
I try. I mean, I've just read them so many times.
Right.
And the movies I haven't watched as much. So that's why I'm always like, oh, I don't remember exactly. But I never thought I'd ever want to relive this series. But having you guys go through it chapter by chapter has actually been a ton of fun. And I'm along for the ride. I'm always excited to listen every Tuesday. Harrison. Harrison Ford. I get it. Okay, I like that. Thanks, Harrison Ford. Yeah, that's super awesome.
Super nice of you. Thank you.
That's very nice.
We didn't do this last episode, but if you want to email us, you can email us at cbterrapodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read your email on air unless you don't want us to.
Right.
But please tell us that.
You can tweet us at cbterrapod on Twitter.
Yes, you can do that.
Or you can send us something, which I would love to get mailed. That would just be like
I have to check the P.O. box.
That would be like the highlight of my whole life, probably.
If you got sent a fan letter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what I would do with myself. Probably have
Would you frame it?
I might.
Yeah, the first letter.
Yeah.
Tara is guaranteeing she will frame the first letter we receive from CBT.
And you can do that.
I mean, for Coached by Tara.
Yeah.
I don't want to get. Don't send us a CBT letters.
Yeah, no.
Unless you mean
Coached
this CBT.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And you could send us to that stuff to this address, P.O. Box 8159. That's Kentwood, Michigan. So KENTWOOD, Michigan 49518.
And we will read your handmade letter.
And maybe we'll even make a video on it. I've never mentioned that before now. Maybe that's crazy.
Tara's coming up with all these ideas.
If it were something like
more work for me.
Obviously, I'm not telling people to like send me concrete items because like I don't want to be like, I don't know. That's weird.
Tara's like, send me free shit.
Like, obviously, I don't want that to happen. But if that were to happen, we would have no way. Like, what would we be doing? Describing it?
Maybe. Okay,
maybe. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know. Either way, you can
contact us in a number of ways. Also, you can join the Discord. Descriptions in or the link is in the description, and we will we do polls on there, and we talk about Twilight on there. And there's a spoiler channel where I don't go into, and you guys can talk about spoilers if you want. So thank you, Harrison Ford, our good friend Karis.
Thank you
for that. Here's my recap of last chapter, interrogations. Okay, so Bella gets up to go to school. She's running late. She gets outside, and who's waiting for her? Mr. Cullen himself.
Oh, yeah, baby.
In his fancy silver car. And he says, hey, can I bring you to school? And she's like, yes, dear. And they drive to school together. They don't really, it's kind of awkward because they don't really talk a lot. But when they get there, there's Jessica. And she's like, OMG, why are you with Edward? And so then he remarks to her after Jessica walks away, like, hey, she's going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm interested to what you're going to tell her. And he's like, I'm going to read her mind, basically. And she's like, okay. So then she like tries to prepare her. Bella tries to prepare herself like, hey, I got to make sure I'm not like giving this guy too much because he's going to read her mind. So then Jessica interrogates her in trigonometry class.
But also like, because, yeah, he can like read her. Yeah,
because he can read Jessica's mind, but he can't read Bella's.
Right.
So anyway, Jessica asks her a bunch of questions and she reveals some feelings. She reveals that she feels like she likes Edward way more than Edward likes her. But she doesn't reveal any vampire stuff, which is good, because that would be bad.
That would be bad. What if she just, like, accidentally said it?
She's like, yeah, he wants to suck my blood. And
she's like, what the fuck? What kind of kink is that?
And she's like...
No shaming,
that's
sorry.
That's kind of hot. Anyway.
I'm not shaming anybody. If
you like sucking blood in real life and it's consensual...
Do as you wish.
Do as you wish. But if you just go around sucking people's blood like some kind of Lord of the Night... That's fucked up.
Like some sort of Lord of the Night.
That's fucked up. I just want to be here to say I am judging you.
A Lord of the Night?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can we name a band that?
Yeah, Lord of the Night. Yeah. That's the name of our we just cover songs from the Twilight soundtrack.
I'd be down with that because the Twilight soundtracks are kind of dope.
Are we going to do an episode where we talk about the soundtrack?
We might. There's
and I just hijack it by talking about Dakota the whole time.
There's multiple, but yeah. Yeah, you could do that.
That could do that. Anyway.
I know that's what you really want, so.
Dakota's such a good song. She meets up with Edward at lunch, and he's like mad, and she's like, why you mad, bro? And he's like, I'm kind of mad because you think you like me more than I like you. Bro,
that's kind of how it is.
I'm trying to tell you to stay away from me for your sake. That's how much I care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, well, that's stupid. And he's like, but no, it's not. And then they just kind of talk about that for a little bit. And then they talk about going to Seattle. And he's like, do you really actually want to go to Seattle? Because that sounds kind of lame. And
is that what he says?
And she's like, I guess we could just go do whatever. He goes, yeah, it's going to be a little too bright outside for me. So if we could just chill in my chill spot. And she's like, okay, dope. But let me drive so my dad doesn't think some shit's up. And then
This is just crazy recap.
Also, they talk about how when he hunts, he likes to drink the blood of mountain lions, and his brother likes to drink the blood of bears, grizzlies, to be exact.
Who does?
His brother.
Yeah, his brother does.
Emmett.
I thought you said he does, and I'm like, no.
Emmett.
Emmett.
And she's like, "Can I see that?" And he's like, "Fuck no, you can't see that shit." That's like me asking you, "Hey, can I watch you eat pizza?"
Well, he was doing
And he does
that,
anyway.
but
And then anyway, there's some what he says he wants to explain something, but later, and she goes, "I'll bet on it," or something. That's how the chapter ends, right? Or I won't forget, or something.
yeah, he says like later he'll explain later why
she shouldn't watch it.
why she shouldn't watch, and like she won't forget that he'll.
And my
explain
prediction
later.
for that is that he will get bloodlusty and try to drink her blood, and that's why he doesn't want her in that situation. Because in order to fight a mountain lion, you kind of got to get jacked. You kind of got to get geared. You got to get corked. You got to get worked up to fight a mountain lion or a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
And so he get jacks, drinks the blood of the mountain lion, then sees her and goes, "Let me drink her blood too." So I think that's what's going on there.
Okay.
So that's chapter 10, interrogations.
Any guesses on the? You don't want to get. We weren't ever.
Chapter 11 is called.
I don't know why we're back to guessing. We were
because I like guessing.
Okay.
I'm a guesser. Chapter 12 or 11 is called. I don't know. I got nothing.
Chapter 11, complications.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
Were you really?
No.
Oh, God. Why am I so gullible? What the fuck? I literally thought.
I set up the bit. I'm sorry. It was all for the bit.
It was all for the bit.
Anyway, Tara, are you ready to take me into the woods and show me how you take down a grizzly bear and suck its blood? I.e., or not I.e., but instead of I.e.,
yeah, I'll talk to you about Twilight.
My brain literally stopped working. It was just like
Michael.exe.
Michael.exe stopped working. I blue screened. It was like and I just froze.
It's funny because you have like the color blue on. That's like
blue.
similar to that screen color.
I am wearing my blue screen shirt. I got blue screen. Anyway, we'll be right back.
Mike?
Yes?
Are you ready to be coached?
I'm so ready.
I'm glad. Okay, here we go. Chapter 11, complications. So then everyone watched them walk together to their lab table after lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's Mike thinking right now? Are we about to
I don't
find out?
know. I guess we'll find out.
Oh, at least I got Jessica.
I'm going to read some of this part because I find it intriguing.
Do it up.
I noticed that he no longer angled the chair to sit as far from me as the desk would allow. Instead, he sat quite close beside me, our arms almost touching. Mr. Banner backed into the room then. What superb timing the man had, pulling a tall metal frame on wheels that held a heavy-looking outdated TV and VCR. A movie day. The lift in the class atmosphere was almost tangible. Mr. Banner shoved the tape into the reluctant VCR and walked to the wall to turn off the lights. And then, as the room went black, I was suddenly hyper-aware that Edward was sitting less than an inch from me. I was stunned by the unexpected electricity that flowed through me, amazed that it was possible to be more aware of him than I already was. A crazy impulse to reach over and touch him, to stroke his perfect face just once in the darkness, nearly overwhelmed me. I crossed my arms tightly across my chest, my hands balling into fists. I was losing my mind. The opening credits began, lighting the room by a token amount. My eyes, of their own accord, flickered to him. I smiled sheepishly. I can never say that. As I realized his posture was identical to mine, fists clenched under his arms, right down to the eyes peering sideways at me. He grinned back, his eyes somehow managing to smolder, even in the dark. I looked away before I could start hyperventilating. It was absolutely ridiculous that I should feel so dizzy. They were having a lot of chemistry.
Movie day.
It's sensual. You know what
happened. Some shit goes down movie day.
Does it really?
It can. It's all dark in there. You're sitting next to each other at a lab table, hands under the table. You don't know what could happen.
You don't know. Well, they're under their arms, but
they could be under the table.
They could be under the table.
You don't know where your hands are going to naturally rest.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
The hour seemed very long. I couldn't concentrate on the movie. I didn't even know what the subject was on. I tried unsuccessfully to relax, but the electric current that seemed to be originating from somewhere in his body never slackened. Occasionally, I would permit myself a glance in his direction, but he never seemed to relax either. The overpowering craving to touch him also refused to fade, and I crushed my fist safely against my ribs until my fingers were aching with the effort. They turn the lights on after the movie's done, and Edward chuckles beside her. Well, that was interesting, he murmured. His voice was dark and his eyes were cautious. Was all I was able to respond. Shall we? He asked, rising fluidly. I almost groaned. Time for gym.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had like a very sensual moment.
That was hot.
I thought it was hot.
I feel like they were...
read it...
They were like edging each other.
When I read it, I was not thinking that.
Edging themselves, I guess, not each other.
I was going to say that was not what I had in mind. But interesting.
What were you going to say?
I was just saying like it was like such like a real moment.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, and I ruined it. I'm sorry.
I thought it was like I don't know. It's a moment that I don't know that a lot of people could like point out. And maybe I feel like not a lot of people would think about it in the moment that they're having like a very strong connection.
Right.
But like you think back to a time and you're like, oh, that was there, you know?
Oh, I really wanted to reach out and touch that person. But
right.
Instead I tried to crush my ribs with my hands.
Right. I mean, I guess in that moment they were like very aware,
right.
But I don't know. Butterfly-y type moments.
Right.
It says, he walked me to my next class in silence and paused at the door. I turned to say goodbye. His face startled me. His expression was torn, almost pained, and so fiercely beautiful that the ache to touch him flared as strong as before. My goodbye stuck in my throat. He raised his hand, hesitant, conflict raging in his eyes, and then swiftly brushed the length of my cheekbone with his fingertips. His skin was as icy as ever, but the trail his fingers left on my skin was alarmingly warm, like I'd been burned but didn't feel the pain of it yet. He turned without a word and strode quickly away from me. Ooh, sensual moments.
Oh my gosh.
Touched her cheek.
Oh.
All right, so then she goes to gym. He leaves her at gym after that crazy cheek touch. Cheek?
Like it was more like a whole skull touch.
He said, across her cheekbone.
But he went like
skull
touch, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. She's in there and she's got to play badminton. And then Mike's like, do you want to be on a team? And she's like,
you're the last person I want to see.
She's like, thanks, Mike. You don't have to do this, you know? And he's like, don't worry. I'll keep out of your way. Like,
oh, you don't want to be around me. I'm St. Mike.
And so then, yeah, it says, it didn't go smoothly. I somehow managed to hit myself in the head with my racket and clip Mike's shoulders on the same swing. I spent the rest of the hour in the back corner of the court, the racket held safely behind my back. Despite being handicapped by me, Mike was pretty good. He won 3 games out of 4 by himself. He gave me an unearned high five when the coach finally blew the whistle ending class. So, he said as we walked off the court, so what? You and Cullen, huh? He asked, his tone rebellious. My previous feeling of affection disappeared. That's none of your business, Mike, I warned, internally cursing Jessica straight to the fiery pits of Hades, because she told him.
Right.
I don't like it, he muttered anyways. You don't have to, I snapped. It looks like he looks at you like you're something to eat, he continued, ignoring me. I choked back to the hysteria that threatened to explode, but a small giggle managed to get out despite my efforts. He glowered at me. I waved and fled to the locker room. So like, what the fuck, Mike? What the fuck?
He looks at you like you're something to eat, and I would treat you like I wouldn't treat you like food. I'd treat you like friends, like in the movie Finding Nemo. Fish are friends, not food. And so you're not, I wouldn't do that to you, but he's a jerk, and you should, I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying.
Nah, girls don't ever like nice guys.
So true.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm just
kind of like a low-key roast of me.
I'm just kidding. No, it wasn't.
Kind of like, it was like low-key roast. It was like, yeah, you're right. They never like nice guys. You're a dick.
No. Maybe just a little.
Just
I'm
a
just
little
kidding.
bit, just a little
I'm
bit.
totally
It's
kidding.
okay. I accept the roast.
I don't think that's true. I was just saying like
Roast
guys
me,
always,
mommy. Roast me.
I was just saying that guys are always like, I'm such a nice guy, and they're like not a nice guy.
Right.
You know?
They're like,
I'm such a nice guy. How come none of the strippers at the strip club
Yeah.
date me?
And it's like, what
They
the
always
fuck?
date
That's so
drug
gross.
dealers.
What? No. Anyways, she walks out of gym and had just about decided to walk straight home without even looking towards the parking lot. But Edward was waiting there against the side of the gym.
why was she trying to leave without Edward?
Because she was like, he probably watched me, and I'm embarrassed because I did a lot of crap in the gym. Like, I played like crap in the gym. So he asks, how was gym? And she says, fine. And he says, really? And he said, and she said, what? He said, really? But then he said, it says he was unconvinced. His eyes shifted their focus slightly, looking over over my shoulder and narrowing. I glanced behind me to see Mike's back as he walked away. What? I demanded. His eyes slid back to mine. Newton's getting on my nerves. You weren't listening again. I was horror-struck. All traces of my sudden good humor vanished. How's your head? He asked innocently. You're unbelievable. I turned, stopping away in the general direction of the parking lot, though I hadn't ruled out walking at this point. He kept up with me easily. You were the one who'd mentioned I'd never seen you in gym. It made me curious. He didn't sound repentant, so I ignored him. We walked in silence, a furious, embarrassed silence on my part, to his car. But I had to stop a few steps away. A crowd of people, all boys, were surrounding it. Then I realized they weren't surrounding the Volvo. They were actually circled around Rosalie's red convertible, unmistakable lust in their eyes. So they were like,
yo, whose car
what
is this?
the heck? And she's like, what kind of car is that? And he says, it's an M3. And she says, I don't speak car and driver, like the magazine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a magazine.
Sounds right.
And he says,
Or was.
He says, it's a BMW.
A Beamer?
A BMW.
She's got a Beamer?
He says, are you still angry? Definitely. He sighed, will you forgive me if I apologize? Maybe, if you mean it, and if you promise not to do it again, I insisted. His eyes were suddenly shrewd. How about if I mean it, and I agree to let you drive on Saturday? He countered my conditions. I considered and decided it was probably the best offer I would get. Deal, I agreed. Then I'm very sorry I upset you. His eyes burned with sincerity.
I'm very sorry I upset you?
Yeah.
That's not an apology, Edward.
I know. His eyes burned with sincerity for a protracted moment, playing havoc with the rhythm of my heart, and then turned playful. And I'll be on your doorstep bright and early Saturday morning. But I agree. That's not an apology. That's like, I'm sorry I upset you, but I don't
Right.
give a shit that I did what I did.
Right. I'm not sorry at all that I was a creep and watched you in gym class.
Right. Oh,
But
well,
I am sorry
forgive him,
that
though.
pissed you off.
I forgive him,
you
though,
dumbass.
already, because he's just so beautiful.
Yeah. I'm getting cucked by a fictional character.
Possibly. I'm just
Possibly.
kidding.
Possibly.
But she's like, well, it doesn't help though. The Charlie situation, if an unexplained Volvo was left in the driveway, and he's like, I wasn't intending to bring the car, and she goes, how? And he says, don't worry about it. I'll be there. No car.
He's gonna fly. He's gonna fly.
I let it go. I had a more pressing question. Is it later yet? I asked significantly because remember he was gonna tell her.
Yes.
He frowned. I suppose it is later. He stopped at the car. I looked up surprised. Of course we were at Charlie's house parked behind the truck. It was easier to ride with him if I only ever looked when it was over. When I looked back at him, he was staring at me, measuring with his eyes. And you still want to know why you can't see me hunt? He seemed solemn, but I thought I saw a trace of humor deep in his eyes. Well, I clarified, I was mostly wondering about your reaction. Did I frighten you? Yes, there was definitely humor there. No, I lied. He didn't buy it. I apologize for scaring you. It was just the very thought of you being there while we hunted. His jaw tightened. That would be bad. He spoke from between clenched teeth. Extremely. Because he took a deep breath and stared through the windshield at the thick rolling clouds that seemed to press down almost within reach. When we hunt, he spoke slowly, unwillingly. We give ourselves over to our senses, govern less with our minds. Mike's doing a happy dance right now because his guess was right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Govern
ding.
less with our minds, especially our sense of smell. If you were anywhere near me when I lost control that way, he shook his head, still gazing morosely at the heavy clouds. I kept my expression firmly under control, expecting the swift flash of his eyes to judge my reaction that soon followed. My face gave nothing away, but our eyes held, and the silence deepened, and changed. Flickers of the electricity I'd felt this afternoon began to charge the atmosphere as he gazed unrelentingly into my eyes. It wasn't until my head started to swim that I realized I wasn't breathing. When I drew in a jagged breath, breaking the stillness, he closed his eyes. Bella, I think you should go inside now. His low voice was rough.
He was gonna eat her.
His eyes on the clouds again. I opened the door, and the Arctic draft that burst into the car helped clear my head. Afraid I might stumble in my woozy state, I stepped carefully out of the car and shut the door behind me without looking back. The whir of the automatic window unrolling made me turn. "Oh, Bella," he called after me, his voice more even. He leaned toward the open window with a faint smile on his lips. "Yes? Tomorrow it's my turn. Your turn to what?" He smiled wider, flashing his gleaming teeth. "Ask the questions." And then he was gone, the car speeding down the street and disappearing around the corner before I could even collect my thoughts. I smiled as I walked into the house. It was clear he was planning to see me tomorrow, if nothing else. Anyways, I'll take a break there, though, because you guessed right. He was like, it's true, like, he, like, says, like, you know, he gives himself over to his senses.
He's gonna eat her. He's gonna eat her
nervous.
alive. He's gonna drink her like a Capri Sun.
Like a Capri Sun?
Like a Capri Sun.
That's pretty nuts. But yeah.
I mean, Capri Suns are delicious.
Yeah, I think so too. I want like a giant Capri Sun right now.
Why don't they make them bigger?
I don't know.
That's the one problem is they make them like this small, like for kids.
I know.
Make
it's
juice
dumb.
boxes for adults, damn it.
Damn
I
it
want
all.
a gallon juice box.
Me too.
Right now.
Me too.
It's okay, dear. One day they'll make gallon-sized juice boxes for us.
Right?
When I'm president, and I
Oh,
demand could the Capri Sun company make them.
wow. That's your first order of business?
Mike for president,
2024.
2028. I need more than 4 years.
Oh, okay.
2028.
Okay, that sounds good.
Maybe 2032. It depends. I got to scout out the opponent and make sure they're the right opponent for me to take down. That's the thing, too.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Me versus Kanye, 2028.
Yeah, thank God. Okay.
Incumbent Kanye West.
Incumbent
2028.
Kanye West.
Because he
What
won
the
in
fuck?
2024. That's the timeline.
Yikes.
The birthday party. And it's going to be a tough win for me because every day did feel like our birthday.
He's not going to win.
In 2024?
I'm not even joking about it because he's not going to win.
When he gets his running mate 50 Cent, it's all over.
Oh, God. Stop now.
The vice president of the United States of America.
Stop.
50 Cent. You nut.
I've given up. I've given up with this whole episode. And then she goes to bed and she dreams of him, of course. Like, it's always Edward starring in her dreams, you know.
Right.
When she woke up, she was still tired. She put on her clothes. She wore a brown turtleneck. She runs into Charlie at breakfast. And he goes, "About this Saturday." And she's like, "Yes." He's like, "You're still set on going to Seattle?" And
Oh no, she's got to lie to Charlie.
she's like, "That was the plan." I grimaced, wishing he hadn't brought it up so I didn't have to compose careful half-truths. "And you're sure you can't make it back in time for the dance?" "I'm not going to the dance, Dad." "Didn't anyone ask you?" he asked. I sidestepped the minefield. "It's girl's choice." "Oh," he frowned. And she's like, it talks about how she like sympathizes with him because like it must be weird to be like a father living in fear that your daughter would meet a boy and like, but also like worry if she didn't meet like the right boy,
Right,
you know?
Right.
I don't know.
Darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Yeah. And then he left, and then like as soon as he heard him leave, then he heard Edward. She heard Edward come. She heard Edward's car pull up as soon as Charlie was gone.
Mm.
She goes out there, obviously, and guess what? It's his turn. His turn for
His
the
turn
questions.
for questions. Let's hear them.
And he says, "Good morning. How are you today?" She says, "Good." You know. He's like, "You look tired." She said, "I couldn't sleep." And he said, "Neither could I." Because I'm a vampire is what he said.
Right.
And she's like, "I guess that's right. I suppose I slept just a little bit more than you did." And she said, "So what did you do last night?" He said, "Not a chance. It's my day to ask questions." And she said, "Oh, that's right. What do you want to know?" And he just starts going into it. He says, "What's your favorite color?"
Turquoise.
And she said, "No." I rolled my eyes. "It changes from day to day." "What's your favorite color today?" He was still solemn. "Probably brown." I tended to dress according to my mood. He snorted, dropping his serious expression. "Brown? Sure, brown is..."
That's the color of shit, Bella.
He's like, "What the fuck?" "Sure, brown is warm. I miss brown. Everything that's supposed to be brown. Tree trunks, rocks, dirt. It's all covered up here with the squashy green stuff," I complained. He seemed fascinated by my little rant. He considered it for a moment, staring into my eyes. "You're right," he decided, serious again. "Brown is warm." He reached over swiftly, but somehow still hesitantly, to sweep my hair back behind my shoulder. Her hair is brown, her eyes are brown.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Also,
She's warm and he's cold.
right when poop comes out, warm.
Thank you for that
Yep.
knowledge. It's
Steaming
so nice.
even.
You stop. But he was having a romantic moment and you just ruined it by your poop talk.
I ruined Edward and Bella's romantic moment, or
Yeah.
did I ruin your romantic moment?
I didn't have a romantic moment, but I was talking about it.
Next question.
Next question. Oh, okay. This one will get you. We were at the school by now. He turned back to me as he pulled into the parking space. "What music is in your CD player right now?" he asked, his face as somber as if he'd asked for a murder confession. I realized I'd never removed the CD Phil had given me. When I said the name of the band, he smiled crookedly, a peculiar expression in his eyes. He flipped open a compartment under his car CD player, pulled out one of 30 or so CDs that were jammed into the small space, and handed it to me. "Debussy to this?" He raised an eyebrow. It was the same CD. I examined the familiar cover art, keeping my eyes down. So that's why someone literally was like, "What CD were they talking about?"
Why was she? Because she didn't want to pay royalties? Is that why she was
I'm sure there's something to do with that. I'm sure of it.
That's so weird.
Okay, so I got to do it now.
Yeah,
Again.
we got to talk about this right now.
So I literally typed in, "What CD was Bella listening to in Twilight?"
Well,
right?
Okay, it's one thing. This is what's
And
weird
then the
about it.
thing literally says Linkin Park in bold.
What's funny is, like, it'd be one thing if, she just mentions it that one time and it never comes back again. But the fact that she made it a connection they have, and then not to mention what album or what it is, that's so weird.
I think there had to have been something weird about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to the source, right? And it's under Stephanie Meyer's own page. Frequently asked questions, Twilight. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I scrolled down and I was like, damn, I really am right. Like, I really must have read this at some point, right?
Yeah, you must have.
And
I wish she said the album.
I'll read to you guys exactly what it says because I was literally just so intrigued.
Okay.
Oh, okay, there it was, the reason in here. "I took that information out because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to get Twilight published. If it took 10 years, would the band still be cool or would it be embarrassing? Lucky for me, it didn't take that long, and the band is still quite cool, in my eyes at least. Bella is listening to Linkin Park, as I am at this very moment."
Rip
I
Chester.
know, it's sad because, like, then later on, like, she would never have known, that, like, Chester would die later. I mean, pretty soon later. I mean, within 10 years.
Well,
But
right.
that's kind of the point she was taking. Like, what if it's something crazy in 10 years? Well, that did actually happen. Just
I
not
don't think
in the...
him dying is what she meant.
No,
though.
she was saying
She
like...
more meant like if she said, "Hey, it's Hoobastank," you know what I mean? Like
like a one-hit wonder.
for Hoobastank. I always trash on Hoobastank.
You
but
trash on Hoobastank.
But like that's what she's talking about. Is
Yeah.
if it was somebody that's like completely irrelevant now.
What does that say about me though? That I probably read these FAQs though.
You are a Twilight number
Maybe
one
I'm
fan.
just like a big stan.
You are a Twilight stan.
Fuck.
Of
I don't
the
know if that's a
mostest
good thing.
stanness.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Yeah, Bella was totally listening
So
to
like they were
Hoobastank.
like she was listening to, she knows like Debussy, like the classical, and then to Linkin Park. But it was funny because they both like the same things again.
Yeah, Edward definitely seems like a Meteor kind of guy.
Yeah.
Maybe not Hybrid Theory, but definitely
I
Meteora.
definitely, that's why I said Meteora. Oh, that's why.
But then
I
Minutes
said.
to Midnight comes out and he's like, the Transformers shit, I sleep.
Minutes to midnight. No. It's funny that that's what was the poll, because I just think that that's not it.
Well, I wanted to
It's
be fair.
100% Meteora.
I wanted to be fair as to what one it could possibly be.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all.
There's some good songs on Meteora.
Meteor's a good album.
Anyway.
I mean, Hybrid Theory is a good album too, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway.
Can you name one song on Hybrid Theory? I'm putting you on the spot.
Probably not.
I already gave you one.
When?
I sang it just before.
Did you?
Yeah, Crawling's on Hybrid Theory.
Oh yeah.
And then
In the end.
In the End, I think, is on Meteora, isn't it? I think so.
I'm on.
Welcome to LP.
Hybrid Theory. You want to hear this? I'll just tell you the whole
All right, tell
thing.
me what's on Hybrid Theory.
Paper Cut, One Step Closer, With You, Points of Authority, Crawling, Runaway, By Myself. In the End.
Oh, In the End is on.
Boom. A Place for My Head, Forgotten, Cure for the Itch, Pushing Me Away.
Okay.
And then Meteora is totally.
Meteora has Faint.
Yeah, Faint is such a good song. And Numb.
Does it have Breaking the Habit?
Yeah, Breaking the Habit. So it says,
Oh, I got Numb confused with In the End. That's why.
Oh.
Yeah, because you're right.
Forward, Don't Stay, Somewhere I Belong, Lying from You, Hit the
Somewhere
Floor.
I Belong, Line from You.
Easier
Okay.
to Run, Faint, Figure .09. Breaking the Habit, From the Inside, Nobody's Listening, Session, and Numb.
Shout outs to Linkin Park. That's a good band right there. I know they got a lot of meme hate because, it is what it is, but Linkin Park, good band. Anyway, you said we have a long to go and we went on this Linkin Park tangent for some reason.
Yeah. Oh.
I've become
That's a good
so
song.
numb, I can't feel you there.
Tired of being what you want me to be.
Okay, back to this. So then maybe we don't have as much as I thought.
But wait. Can I say one thing?
Okay.
One more thing about Linkin Park?
Okay.
What about the Jay-Z Linkin Park album?
What about it? Do you
It's-
think
it's
that would be
good.
the album?
No, but I'm just saying it's good.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
You just needed to add that.
Encore Numb? Come on.
It's called Numb Encore,
Encore
first of
Numb
all.
to me.
No,
Grand
it's...
opening, grand closing. Grand opening, grand closing. Grand opening, grand closing.
It's Numb Encore. Anyways.
Everybody go watch the meme video by Magic Mike on YouTube called Numb Encore, but Jay-Z ruins everything.
I love it. It's so fucking funny.
Riddle me that.
I could literally watch that.
Riddle me that.
Okay, stop. We gotta get back on
All right,
track.
yeah,
now.
back on track.
So continue.
On to track number 2 on Meteora. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh my god. The rest of this podcast is now just us playing the album through the microphones.
Yeah, through the microphones, but I'm gonna put a lo-fi filter on it so you can study/chill to it. You're welcome.
Sounds good. So it continued like that for the rest of the day while he walked me to English, when he met me after Spanish, all through the lunch hour. He questioned me relentlessly about every insignificant detail of my existence. Movies I'd liked and hated, the few places I'd been in, the many places I wanted to go, and books. Endlessly books. I couldn't remember the last time I've talked so much. Much more often than not, I felt self-conscious, certain I must be boring him, but the absolute absorption of his face and his never-ending stream of questions compelled me to continue. Mostly his questions were very easy, only a very few triggering my easy blushes. But when I did flush, it brought on a whole new round of questions each time. Such as the time he asked my favorite gemstone, and I blurted out topaz before thinking. He'd been flinging questions at me with such speed that I felt like I was taking one of those psychiatric tests where you answer with the first word that comes to mind. I was sure he would have continued down whatever mental list he was following, except for the blush. My face reddened because, until very recently, my favorite gemstone was garnet. It was impossible, while staring back into his topaz eyes, not to remember the reason for the switch. And naturally, he wouldn't rest until I had admitted why I was so embarrassed. It's so funny because, that's the absolute opposite color of the gemstone that she described. Yeah. Garnet's red, I think.
Garnets are red.
And he says, "Tell me," he finally commanded after persuasion failed only because I kept my eyes safely away from his face. "It's the color of your eyes today," I sighed, surrendering, staring down at my hands as I fiddled with a piece of hair. I suppose if you asked me in 2 weeks, I'd say onyx, which is black. You know?
Because he hasn't hunted yet.
Because in 2 weeks, yeah.
Right.
I'd given more information than necessary in my unwilling honesty, and I preferred it would provoke the strange anger that flared whenever I slipped and revealed too clearly how obsessed I was. But his pause was very short. What kinds of flowers do you prefer? And they continued. So many questions.
Good on him not being a weirdo there.
So then it talks about how then they get to the biology and then they have to watch the video again. They're watching the movie again.
Like the same video?
Yeah, they're continuing with the
I see.
the
I
video.
was confused. I thought you meant they were just rewatching it again, and I was like, it must have been really good.
No.
I was like, what the fuck?
You know how you like used to watch movies in the class?
You split it,
And then the same thing happened where there was like an electric spark, but no, nothing happened, unfortunately. The same thing, like it was just like the same as yesterday there, and then the same when they got to Jim, like they were silent, and then he just like stroked her face and walked away, and
habitual
just
face stroker.
Exactly.
Edward Cullen.
And then Mike still was on her team, but like they didn't speak. He must have been
mad.
still angry. Yeah.
He's mad.
And then
Ho's mad.
Ho's mad.
Ho's mad.
Oh Jesus.
You ever seen the Ho's mad meme?
Mm-hmm.
Ho's mad. Ho's mad.
And she's like kind of concerned about it, but she's like, I'm too busy thinking about everything else to even think about that right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So then like it's after Jim and he's still like doing more cross-examination, lots of questions, but then like his questions got like different, you know, they were just like, what's your favorite things, you know?
Right.
But now he wanted to know what she missed about home, insisting on descriptions of anything he wasn't familiar with. They sat in front of Charlie's house for hours because they were just like sitting outside in the car for a long time. I assume in the car. It doesn't say in the car. I just assumed.
I mean, they've always pretty much been in cars, so that makes sense. Is that what it's like in the movie, or does this not happen in the movie?
Honestly, this doesn't really happen in the movie.
He doesn't find out about her.
They just cut a like that's kind of a hot take right now, but like that's kind of what I don't like about the movies is
they cut a lot of their relationship out.
They cut out a lot of like what makes them like compatible and like superhuman, like more. Like, they have actual human conversations.
Where in the movie, it's more like, oh, he's so hot, and that's it.
It's hard to explain without giving, like, the movie and other things away.
Okay.
But, like, I feel like they cut out a lot of just their regular dialogue, which makes them less... Like, because in this, like, when he's talking, I feel like it's more relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're, he's still talking to her like a regular person.
Right.
But in the movie, he's more of like does certain things, and you're like, oh, he's different. Like,
right.
Which I know they have to only have so much time. It's just like it's dumb at the same time because they could have kept in at least some dialogue to make it seem.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to watch the movie when we're done because I want to see how
different it is. I feel like they could have kept more dialogue for like the connection aspect of it, kind of like what we were talking about when the blood type stuff happened. Like a lot of that whole chapter is just like their first real big interactions, and that whole part isn't even in.
Picks her up with his strong arms.
Yeah, and that whole part isn't even in the movie. Like it's just crazy to me. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think of the movie.
Yeah.
So it says, I tried to describe impossible things like the sound of the creosote, which I don't know what that is. Bitter, slightly resonant, but still pleasant. The high keening sound of the cicadas in July. The feathery barrenness of the trees. The very size of the sky, extending white blue from horizon to horizon, barely interrupted by the low mountains covered with purple volcanic rock. The hardest thing to explain was why it was so beautiful to me. So like just different things about Arizona and like things growing up. And then his questions, got like he paused like rather than like asking another question right after. Mm-hmm. And she's like, are you done? Like, are you finished? And he's like, not even close, but I know your father will be home soon. And she's like, oh my God, like how late is it? And he goes, it's twilight, Edward murmured. The name of the book.
Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV. He said the thing.
The name of the. He said the thing.
He said the thing.
He said the thing. It's Twilight.
Yes.
His voice was thoughtful, as if his mind were somewhere far away. I stared at him as he gazed unseeingly out the windshield. I was still staring when his eyes suddenly shifted back to mine. It's the safest time of day for us, he said, answering the unspoken question in my eyes. The easiest time, but also the saddest in a way. The end of another day, the return of the night. Darkness is so predictable, don't you think? He smiled wistfully.
Oh my God, this is starting to sound like Kingdom Hearts.
I like the night. Without the dark, we'd never see the stars. I frowned. Not that you see them here much. He laughed, and the mood abruptly lightened. Charlie will be here in a few minutes, so unless you want to tell him who you'll be with on Saturday... Thanks, but no thanks. So is it my turn tomorrow then? Certainly not. I told you I wasn't done, didn't I? What more is there? You'll find out tomorrow. But it says, but his hand froze on the handle. Not good, he muttered. What is it? I was surprised to see his jaw clenched. Another complication, he said glumly. He flung the door open in one swift movement and then moved, almost cringed, swiftly away from me. The flash of headlights through the rain caught my attention as a dark car pulled up to the curb just a few feet away, facing us. Charlie's around the corner, he warned, staring through the downpour at the other vehicle. I hopped out at once, despite my confusion and curiosity. The rain was louder as it glanced off my jacket. I tried to make out the shapes in the front seat of the other car, but it was too dark. I could see Edward illuminated in the glare of the new car's headlights. He was still staring ahead, his gaze locked on something or someone I couldn't see. His expression was a strange mix of frustration and defiance. Then he revved the engine, and the tires squealed against the wet pavement. The Volvo was out of sight in seconds. Hey, Bella, called a familiar husky voice from the driver's side of the little black car. Jacob, I asked, squinting through the rain. Just then, Charlie's cruiser swung around the corner, his lights shining on the occupants of the car in front of her. So then Jacob's there, climbing out of the car, right? And the passenger seat is an older guy, like a heavyset man that's like older. And she realizes oh, that's Jacob's father, Billy Black.
I thought he couldn't drive.
He can't. He was in the passenger seat.
Oh, Jacob was driving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I knew him immediately, though in the more than 5 years since I'd seen him last, I'd managed to forget his name when Charlie had spoken of him my first day here. He was staring at me, scrutinizing my face, so I smiled tentatively at him. His eyes were wide, as if in shock or fear. His nostrils flared. My smile faded. Another complication, Edward had said. Billy still stared at me with an intense, anxious eyes. I groaned internally. Had Billy recognized Edward so easily? Could he really believe the impossible legends his son had scoffed at? The answer was clear in Billy's eyes. Yes. Yes, he could. And that's the end of the chapter.
Bum, 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 bum.
Complications.
Civil War. Native American werewolves versus posh vampires.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was going too smoothly, Something had to get effed up.
Mm-hmm. It was just... Everything was going great with their questions and stuff, and there just had to be something.
So I think the next chapter, if I can do a prediction right now...
You're welcome to.
...is going to have Billy trying to sabotage, Bella's relationship with Edward through Charlie.
Okay.
But without, because obviously you can't just say, hey, Charlie, have your daughter stay away from that guy.
He's a vampire.
Because he'll be like, you're crazy, dude.
Right.
But he's going to try to find some way, I feel like, to be like, yo, I saw her with the Colon boy. He's not good. But I don't know if it's going to go well for him because Charlie loves the Colons.
Right. Exactly.
So
it could be real odd, right?
It could get pretty odd. Panic at the disco. So who knows? I'm excited, though.
I'm excited. I know.
That's a good cliffhanger. That's
I
one
like
of the...
it.
They've had a couple cliffhangers that were all right, but then a couple of just oh, you'll see tomorrow, Bella. And
right,
okay,
right,
cool,
okay,
whatever.
well, yeah, it's
whatever,
predictable.
Edward.
But now it's kind of we're at a cusp where it's anything could happen.
Anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
Here on the CBT podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Tara.
Yes.
Thank you for coaching me today.
You're welcome.
I had a grand time.
Me too.
Everybody, we will see you next week.
Yes.
Thank
Feel free to
listening.
reach out to us.
Reach out to us.
Listening.
On the things that we listed earlier.
Yes.
And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. so numb, I can feel you there. Become so tired of alone. I'm becoming less. All I want to do
Stop.
is be more like me and be less like I've become so numb. Can I get an encore? Do you want more? More, 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 more. I become so numb. Grand opening, grand closing. Grand opening, grand closing. Grand opening, grand closing.